I feel like what makes something a relevant piece of media to our times has less to do with how recent it is and more to do with what meaning readers or watchers can pull from it. And I think different stories kind of cycle through how relevant they are to audiences. Things that are both very, very old and things that are very, very current both provide relevance and meaning for our lives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today in the studio is returning guest and my friend, Janet Snow. Welcome back, Janet.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back. I loved talking about our kind of culty fantasy book last time, and it really just kind of inspired me to get back into that genre. I kind of went on a little bit of a kick afterwards. But before we get into that, would you mind introducing yourself just a little bit in case people didn't listen to Thief?
Yes, I'm Janet. I've lived in Taiwan for a little over 2 years now, and I have always been a pretty huge enjoyer of stories, books, and stuff especially.
And what book did you bring for us today, Janet?
Today I brought A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Guin.
And that book immediately caught my attention because of the Ghibli animated Tales from Earthsea.
I want to say.
That's it, Tales from Earthsea. These are the series of books, at least a series, if not the one book that those were based off of.
Yes, because it's an older fantasy book. It was published, I believe, 1967, 1968 or so. And it's one of the books where you read it and you kind of notice its fingerprints. You notice its influence on so many other things. If you've read enough in the genre, you've seen something like this before.
I love books like that, or not even books, but even books and media like that, because you can find it in anything. But whether or not it changes the genre, you can definitely tell that it's a book that many creators read and then took those ideas forward.
Yeah. If there's that idea of things kind of going into the creative or cultural soup, so to speak, some things are a slight note of flavor, and some things it's you found the bay leaf.
This was an idea you brought up your last podcast. But to summarize it, it's that idea that everything you make is sort of a soup of the different pieces that you ingest over your lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? So then to use that metaphor, to continue that metaphor, this book is a bay leaf for many other contemporary fantasy authors.
Certainly, I think the trajectory of the genre over a longer period of time, I would say.
Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, I am getting more and more excited, and I think what we need to do is just kind of lock in and get into the summary. So, Janet, would you mind giving us a summary of A Wizard of Earthsea?
All right. So the story follows basically the young life of this character named Ged.
GD, got it.
Which is his, because they're wizards, it's it's his true name. You know how wizards are. And the story follows his life in a way where when you kind of start reading it, it's a kind of very zoomed out view. You're not quite summarizing, but if you think of the way older myths that followed a character went, the early life is a little bit more zoomed out.
Yeah.
He grew up in a very small village in an island and kind of started showing these signs of talent and ability very, very young, right? And in the small village where he lived, it was almost unheard of. And it kind of does. Oh, by the way, he saved everybody from invaders, and you get a little bit about that. He went to kind of go apprentice under the wizard who lived on the island. But you get this one moment where I think he's about 14. He was off just kind of up in the hillsides, and this other girl from the village was kind of oh, I hear you can do magic. Oh, I bet you can't do this. I bet you can't basically do some stuff that's quite dangerous. And so, because he's kind of prideful, right, goes, sneaks down, reads a book he's not supposed to.
Gets into the forbidden text.
Comes up,
and
does
like something
luckily
dangerous.
His mentor shows up.
Oh, okay.
Kind of pulls him back, right, before anything too bad comes of it.
Yeah.
But again, because this is like a young character, right, who's a little bit prideful, a little wants to prove himself.
He wants to prove himself. He hasn't yet come of age.
and of course his mentor's doing the mentor thing of like being silent and mysterious. But his mentor kind of offers, if you're discontented with this method of learning, I can send you a letter of recommendation to go to schooling on like kind of one of the main islands. And so Ged takes it, right?
Yeah. He's like, sure, I'd try something new.
Try something new. It's like he gets to learn. And this is a world of magic in which language and naming in particular, like what something's true name is foundational to most of the magic system within the book. And so he's going and he's memorizing and he's doing all of this. But of course at school, instead of being one of two guys on your island who can do magic, do cool magic, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are all kids all learning the same stuff.
Now he's like one of 50, one of 100, maybe one of even more.
Yeah, and so all of that pride and ambition kind of comes up against other capable people, but also other capable people who were from islands that were more well off.
Oh, so he's from the sticks.
Yeah.
Not only is he just from an island somewhere, he's from like the sticks.
He's from the
Podunk Islands.
Not a bad island necessarily, but not like an island with the gleaming city kind of stuff.
This is like the true countryside island.
And basically it comes to a head in a very, it's like it's after a festival. It's kind of an auspicious time, and it turns into, what power do you have? What spells can you do? And Ged ends up claiming that he can summon not only the spirit of the dead, right?
Always a good thing to do at a party. Everyone loves that trick.
Not only can he summon a spirit of the dead, but he can summon like a spirit of the dead from myth, right?
Oh, cool.
Like a lady people aren't 100% sure was ever real. And he does it, but in a classic tale of a little bit too much hubris, something else slips through, and it's this shadow. And then like kind of right around here, the part of the narrative that feels kind of zoomed out, that feels like you're reading like a little bit more of a distanced myth, suddenly zooms in not suddenly, but you
realize this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, suddenly you're very, very close to this character and what is going on with him.
The timing slows down quite a lot. We're
quite a lot.
In the moment. We're now looking at what's happening.
We're very in the moment where he's released this shadow that tries to attack him. It tries to possess him, to gain control of him. He nearly dies from the experience.
Of course.
And he does finish out his schooling, but there's kind of this understanding. He took like a good 6 months medical leave, like not talking.
I mean, I feel like you have to. Anyway.
Yeah, because it's like he's released this shadow, and
you've affected other people's lives now.
Yeah, because the implication is, right, now that he's gone and done it, right, now that his pride has led to this, there's now this shadow creature that is out somewhere in the world. He does not know where, but he does know that in some capacity it is waiting for him. Whenever he leaves kind of the safe sanctuary of his school and his schooling, right, when he becomes a full-fledged wizard, he knows that it's waiting. And eventually he does go to work as a wizard for this community, but then
the community where the school is, or does he go back home?
Different island,
somewhere else entirely.
But the shadow, the threat of the shadow, it starts catching up with him. And so he runs. There's a time where the shadow almost gets him. And there are different opportunities kind of as he's starting to go about his young life. I mean, he is still solidly a teenager.
Sick.
But there are different opportunities where different sources of power offer to tell him the shadow's name. With the idea that, again, if you know a name, a true name in this world,
maybe control something or have some power
over it. Like a dragon at one point tries to bargain with it. And Ged at that point says no, because he doesn't trust it. There's another time where there's like an ancient mysterious stone that absolutely would have some sort of very evil
nefarious
thrall.
purpose.
It's like standard issue
evil
thing with a thrall. It whispers stuff to you when they keep it in the dungeon.
It's obviously cursed.
It's the most obviously cursed thing you've seen. But it's also power, knowledge.
It does know the name. I mean, it does know the name.
It says it does.
Uh-huh.
And so for a lot of the book, it's him running and, being given these kind of tempting opportunities to learn the thing's name and not taking it until finally he runs as far as he can. He actually makes it home to his original island, to his original mentor, and talks about it a little and comes to the conclusion that the only way to handle this shadow that he's released is to hunt it back, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Turn around, face it, and go after it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So he does. But when he tries to confront the shadow, he's also not quite able to. So it puts the shadow and Ged in this kind of weird balance where they can't quite catch or overpower each other, but they are linked in a way where they can't just say, no, forget about you, kind of things. And so by the end of the book, you have Ged sailing to like the far, far, far reaches of this world where magic and understandings of things start to kind of break down, almost in a, if the world was really flat, what would the edge kind of be like between the world and the world beyond?
Yeah.
And he finally goes to meet this shadow, turns to it, and at the very end of the book, names the shadow Ged.
Yeah.
He names it his own name, and they become one. The symbolic accepting of your shadow, accepting of your darkest parts, giving you like a way to handle them and make peace with them sort of power. Like, and it drops that, and then there's like 1 page left.
Yeah, I have like goosebumps.
It's like I first read it when I was probably about Ged's age. I was maybe somewhere 17, 18, I want to say.
Oh, perfect
and so
time. Perfect time.
But it is also so interesting rereading it. I think, again, when I was in university, and now this would probably be, I think, my third read through of it.
Well, let me ask you about that real quick. When you first encountered this book, you said that you were a teenager. Was that like high school for you?
Yeah, it would have been probably the later parts of high school. And I think looking at the way myself and my peers were viewing academia, the way we were viewing kind of the competition and the pressure and culture around being about to go to university, it would have been in my case. I think it's probably very good I read it, honestly. I think it probably helped me temper my own
ambition?
Not necessarily ambition, but I think like what I chose to value in terms of my personal accomplishments.
So let me ask you that question directly then. What meaning did you get from this book? Because you said not ambition, and I do think for most people that's true. I think ambition tends to mostly be a sin in like fantasy books where you have something like magic and your ambition is to know all the dangerous magic. Yes. But in the real world, like what did that mean?
I think at the time I was more consciously aware of the acceptance of the self, right? I think as a teenager, right, and having those like huge emotions that you do at 17, 18. How you feel about yourself is super unstable. And the idea of not running from the parts of yourself that you don't like.
Yeah.
And facing them head on was big at the time. I think as I got older, right, and as I experienced that transition, the more subtle meaning of the book was present, because there would be times when I was in university where I would make decisions being much more in tune with myself, my actual interests and my actual passions, rather than what I thought would get me validation outright.
So when you say like the subtle meaning of the book, you're referring to like sort of a truer acceptance of what it is you really want.
Yeah, and what kind of motivates you to pursue knowledge and things in particular.
I also like the meaning in the book that like those things that you may not like won't just go away, even if other people say that they can help make them go away. Like those, if they're part of yourself, they're going to keep following you until you can face them, or until you can sort of accept that as part of like a holistic self.
That's a meaning that stood out, especially on this most recent read. And I think especially now that I'm like very solidly into adulthood, and there are so many pressures on yourself, on
how we measure success, really. Like, how do you measure being a successful adult? Like, despite having finished school, there are other benchmarks that you might feel you need to achieve, even without like really resonating with you. In the same way that like grades or getting into a school did, right? Like, are you getting married? Are you getting married to the right person? Are you having children? Are you having children at the right time? Do you have a career? Et cetera, et cetera. Like, the list could go on. Those pressures still exist.
Yeah, and some of the benchmarks I think are also a little bit more nebulous too, but a lot of them also kind of do feed into these insecurities and that little voice whispering, I can name what it is, I can fix this. Like there's a lot of noise of that, I think.
Like, if I can just know what I want.
If I can just know what I want. Like the low-hanging fruit examples, advertisements, and thinking about some of the culture on social media where people are like very, very casual about like cosmetic work done, which obviously everyone's choice, but it's like there's always like a fix for that thing you don't like. For something you don't like. And whether or not it's actually like a compassionate use of your understanding of self is worth considering, because that whisper
may not be coming from a place you can trust.
Yeah, and it's also, it's very present, right?
So do you think that that's what makes this a tale of our time? Because it does sort of contextualize, granted in a fantasy way, but the struggle that a lot of us might feel between trying to find like one fix for what might actually just sort of be like a problem with self-acceptance or acceptance with our lot in life or anything of that ilk.
I definitely think so. I think to an extent there will always be a place for stories about how to navigate the world as yourself. Going through life, I don't think has gotten, like on that emotional level, I don't think has gotten wildly easier or more difficult either way. But I do think that in terms of a tale of our time, there is something refreshing about a story in which that is so obviously the purpose of it, because it cuts very much to the chase. Like, you watch this character make like the mistake of his life and have to fix it and make amends with it and find peace and self-acceptance and strength within the confines of it, in a way that sometimes books are a little bit afraid to be that obvious with it.
Yeah.
This is a book that stands really, really strong in theme. And I think just because it stands in it so strongly, right, I'm able to pull all these different meanings, and I've been able to pull all these different meanings at different times in my life. But I think that other people reading it could play in that space
in much the same way you have.
Yeah.
Like through multiple readings at multiple stages of your life.
Readings, and it feels so integral to the purpose and heart of the book. Whereas sometimes I find thematic things are just like, almost like a pleasant surprise to both author and reader, just a little bit of just sort of like,
Yeah.
Sometimes I really appreciate, both personally and creatively, reading a book like this. There's a kind of directness to it that I think is very refreshing.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. But before we go, I want to ask you one last question, which is, if you could give A Wizard of Earthsea a one-phrase subtitle of your very own, what would it be?
If I had to give it a one-sentence little summary, I'd say How to Face the Shadow.
Very appropriate is what I would say to that. But unfortunately, like I said, we are out of time. So thank you so much for your time, Janet. And thank you to all of you listeners out there. This has been Tales of Our Time on Radio Taiwan International. I was your host, Amanda Stevens, with today's guest, Janet Snow. And we were discussing the story, A Wizard of Earthsea, Face the Shadow. A Tale of Our Time. We'll see you next time.